I guess we'll talk about a few of my rescues, a few of our rescues at the farm. Like you said, we have a big 232-acre farm animal sanctuary in New Jersey, Skylands Animal Sanctuary. And so this is Julie right here. So Julie is a young Holstein calf. She was a young girl. I got an email one night from a friend of mine saying that there was a calf abandoned on the side of the road in Vermont with her umbilical cord still attached. Vermont is usually too far for me to travel to be effective. By the time you get there, bad things happen in 5-6 hours, you know. But I had a weird feeling, which you'll find out is a theme through these stories here. I had this weird feeling. So I just jumped in the truck and started driving to Vermont. Had no idea where, just Vermont. About 3 hours into the ride, I got a call from a woman who said, I'm the person who put that email out. And she was from Canada. She was on vacation in Vermont. She was hiking, and she came across this calf who was not laying on the side of the road with an umbilical cord attached, but in what she called an abandoned shed, just left, and starving. And so the story has changed, you know, which often happens. People get excited and they tell it one way. When it comes down to it, it's a little different. So I thought, what the heck, I'm on my way already. So I'm driving, I'm all greasy from working on trucks. I stop at a Tractor Supply and I buy milk replacer for the baby and colostrum because I don't know how young she is, and a bottle, and I'm all greasy, so I buy some jeans and a John Deere shirt. And I drive the rest of the way. I get there, it's like 11 o'clock at night, so it was too late for me to do anything. So I get a hotel room, and the next morning I drive to where the woman says this abandoned shack is. I turn the corner, and it is not an abandoned shack. It's a little building, nice little building in the woods, in a field right by the edge of the woods. It's a horse barn, maybe a 5-acre pasture in front of it. So this is a problem. She lied to me, and if I wanted to go and just try and get a farmer to give me a calf, I could do that a mile from my farm. I don't have to drive 6 hours to do it. But I'm here now, right? So my hair was down to here, looking like a critter in my big dual-wheel truck. It's red, New Jersey license plates, and this farm, the building is about 700 feet up this dirt driveway, and I know I'm going to get arrested right now. So I think, let me find the house attached. So there's a little house next door. I go over there, and it's a rundown little tiny house, and there's a car there with the hood up that's broken down, junk all over the place. I walk up and I knock on the door, no one answers. I knock a little harder, no one answers. Get back in the truck, drive out, go back up this long driveway. Now I'm going to go up there, and I'm driving slowly, halfway up the driveway, and I can hear bellowing, this moo. It's so loud, and I'm like, this woman not only lied to me about whether or not this animal was abandoned, but this is definitely not a tiny animal. This is so loud, it's so loud. I drive up to the building, I get out of my truck, and I'm pacing in front of the building, right? Because I know I'm about to get in trouble. I know I am. I walk in the building. As soon as I walk in, there's a wall full of horse saddles. I'm going to say $10,000 worth of horse saddles. So it's definitely not some abandoned building. I walk in, screaming, moo, moo, moo. And I look in the first stall, nobody. The second, there's a bucket there full of colostrum, which is yellowish, right? It's got flies in it. It's horrible. And I look in the stall, and there's this tiniest calf that I ever saw, 52 pounds, tiny calf, and she is screaming, and I reach over to pet her on the head, and she starts sucking on my fingers. That is immediately a problem for me, immediately. So I walk back outside, and I open my truck, and I fold the seat down, I throw a blanket down, because I have to steal a calf now. There's nothing I can do. I can't, there's no way I can leave this animal here. I I knew she would tell the police it was me. Which, before I had the sanctuary, I wouldn't care less about. But now I have this sanctuary, and I'm worried because who's going to run the place? Well, I'm in jail, right? So I jump back in the truck, I drive down the road, and I get back to the little house, and now I'm really pounding on the door. Boom, boom, you know. And this woman comes out, and she is extremely unhappy with me. And she is, I woke her up. And she is standing there, very sour, very short, abrupt answers. Do you know whose building that is next door? It's my husband's. Is that your calf? It's my husband's. Nice tattoos you got. She was covered in tattoos. A couple seconds of talking about her tattoos, she's starting to lighten up a little bit. We found a little common ground. Started to talk a little. But still, she was short. You know, that field calf's worth $300 now. They're running for like $300 right now. She kept saying it to me. Said it several times. I said, what are you going to do with that calf? Well, we're going to keep her. The kids seem to like her. Oh, you're going to keep her like a pet? Yeah, until she's big enough to eat when she's a few hundred pounds, and then we're going to eat her. And I pride myself, even though I have a very bad temper, I pride myself on being able to keep my mouth shut when I'm supposed to try and help these animals. But all of a sudden, when she said that we're going to eat her, I could hear myself saying, now I can't leave. So we talk a little more, and she keeps talking about her husband and how he owns the place. I said, well, what about this mystery husband? Any chance I can speak to the man? She goes, sure. He works down the road at that 1,000-head dairy farm. 1,000-head dairy farm. It's massive. I'm like, this is not going to go well. She says, I'll text him. Let me get your phone number. If he gets back to me, I'll call you. And she was kind of blowing me off. And I thought, well, I have nowhere to go. I don't know where I am. So I'm just going to sit in the road anyway. So if he comes, give me a call and I'll come out. Okay, she says, and she's mad. You can see she's frustrated with me. And she goes, I'll text him, but if he doesn't get back to me, he usually doesn't get back for at least an hour. She texted him. I would love to know what she said, because it couldn't have been 5 minutes later. This pickup truck comes flying up the road, 70, down this dirt road. These two big farm boys get out. I'm like, oh boy. Which one's your husband, the passenger? First thing I do, I have to tell you straight out, is this. Yes, I have my knife. I always do that. Yes, I have my knife. And so I walk up, and I didn't even let him speak. I just introduce myself. I start, shake his hand. I tell him the whole story. I tell him about how I got here, how the story was not exactly what I thought it was, how I just trespassed on his land and saw this little calf, and she was tiny. She's too thin, and now her knees are a little turned in, and I could probably help with that if he'd let me. How I bought my brand new clothes the night before. I told him the whole story, how I got there and drove 6 hours. All of a sudden he says to me, these damn city people. I said, what? He says, see that house over there across the street? Yeah, that's my neighbor's house. They've lived there for years. I've lived here for 10 years. They started renting that house out in the summertime. City people come and rent it. This woman comes last year, sees my cat. He's 10 years old. Every day the cat's outside all day. He comes in at night. We bring him in the house. She sees my cat outside, decides he needs to be rescued. She goes and buys a live trap, catches my cat, gives him away to someone on Craigslist. I had to drive 4 hours down and back to get my own cat back. I go, that bitch. He starts laughing. We find a little common ground again. We talk a little more. And then I say to him, listen, we need to talk about that calf. You know, I thought I was going to come here, from the story I originally heard, I thought I was going to come here and find an emaciated calf left out in a shack in the woods for bear bait, you know, and some dope giving me excuses about how I couldn't afford to feed her. And then you and me, we might be wrestling right now. I said, but that's not what I found. I found a field calf. And whether I agree with it or not, around here, it's commonplace. So instead of coming here with some kind of legal high ground to stand on. Here I am instead a beggar. And he looks at me and he just says to me straight out, he goes, listen, I like you. He goes, you're definitely no bullshitter, so I'm not going to bullshit you. That calf was born a twin. Her brother didn't make it. As soon as he said that, boom, it makes sense to me. She's a free martin. So when you have a calf, a girl that is born a twin with a boy, oftentimes she gets too much testosterone. She can't ever get pregnant. So she's useless as a dairy cow. So she's a free martin, I said. And he goes, yeah, she's a free martin. So they gave her to me for free. So you can have her. He just says it just like that. And I'm waiting now because his wife had said to me 10 times, you know, these veal calves are worth $300. And I'm looking at this man and I see where he lives. And I know that $300 means something to him. It's not just $300. It means something. But he doesn't say anything else. So I'm standing there like a dope, waiting for, yeah, you can have her for $200. You can have her, you know. And I don't buy animals. But he doesn't say anything. And I go, I can have her? He goes, you can have her. And I shake his hand about 10 times, jump in the truck, and I fly down the dirt road, and I grab this little girl, I throw her in the back seat, and I take off like a maniac. And there she is in the back of my truck having her first bottle with me. And she is tiny, tiny. And there she is at the vet when I got her to the vet. And that's a regular height counter. That's how small she is. Her whole head was smaller than my hand. I like this story because that is a man who worked his whole life making money off these animals. And here he is, for once, maybe the only time, seeing her animal, her life as worth more than that $300 to him. Meanwhile, I know that $300 means a lot to him. And that was a pretty cool thing to me, right? So here she is in the back of my truck, because when I first started the sanctuary, I didn't have any people really helping me. I had this big, huge piece of land and a little calf who needed bottles 3 times a day. So anytime I would go anywhere, Cornell, I'd go to farm sanctuary to move animals, this and that. Here's Julie in the back seat, so I could give her a bottle on time. And I'll tell you what, it is very fun to be in traffic with a little calf and her head on your shoulder. It is a great way to get a double take. There's my shoulder right there. And there's me giving her a bottle. She's the sweetest. She was. Watch this. Let's see if I can make this work. There she is, right? Running around inside the big barn. That was her playground at first, right? She was getting stronger and stronger and doing better. There she is with Jimmy. This is Jimmy on my shirt. And this is my favorite video. She's fantastic, right? And that's Julie, watch her go. She's a maniac. She's 52 pounds, beating the heck out of that shavings like it was public enemy #1. And there she goes. And so it was, there she is getting bigger, and bigger, and bigger. And now she's very big. She's almost as big as Jimmy. She's probably, I don't know, 1,000 pounds right now. And she's still growing, and she is a maniac. She loves to wrestle. So if you come and take a tour of the farm, Julie will be in the bad kids pen during a tour, so she doesn't lift you off the ground. And look at that face, right? She's awesome. Freddie. Freddie is easily, at our farm, the most famous kid that we have, right? The most famous rescue. So again, I'm driving one day, I'm driving right back to my farm, and I get a phone call from a friend of mine. It says, Mike, did you see that text I just sent you? No. A bull escaped a slaughterhouse in Queens and was captured and taken back to the slaughterhouse. And they are going to kill him in the morning. I hook up the trailer, and immediately I leave to the city because I just have this feeling, right? So I leave, and I start heading to the city. Making 1 million phone calls. I have 3 phones going at once, trying to figure out where this animal is, who has control of him, what can I do? And I get the slaughterhouse worker on the phone. There's Freddie running right down the street. Right? I get the slaughterhouse owner on the phone finally, and that's him being caught in the parking garage after he'd escaped and was running down the streets. And within 5 minutes, I almost have them agreed to give me the animal, to let him live. Very close, and I am so excited. I'm so encouraged, right? Because your heart is racing. Every second means something in these rescues, because some of these places will feel pressure and they'll just kill them right away to stop the pressure, to make it go away. But these guys said they were going to kill him in the morning. And so I'm talking to this guy, and it turns out there's two brothers who had the slaughterhouse. And so the one brother I'm on the phone with is definitely on board with the idea of me taking the animal, because he wants to be the hero. He wants to be the hero. I've successfully convinced him that it was his idea to let me have the animal, and he will be the hero of the day by giving me that animal. I'm so happy. And then I hear yelling in the background, and it's his brother, his business partner, yelling, "We're not giving that animal to anyone. That animal is promised to someone. We have a contract. We're going to get sued for breach of contract. I don't care what happens. I'm not getting sued by anyone." And the other brother comes back on the phone. You can hear in his voice, he's a little dejected. He's like, "I'm sorry. My brother has a point. I can't give him to you. We're going to get sued." I said, "Well, I'm almost there anyway. I think I'll come." "What time are you going to be there, Tony?" He says, "We'll be here till at least 8 o'clock. So I get there at 10 minutes after 7, and they're gone. And it's January 21st, and it's like 10 degrees outside. So I stay in my truck overnight in front of the slaughterhouse, watching, making sure no one comes in or out. I see a truckload of chickens dropped off, but no workers. Just before it's light out, I don't know, before it's light out, I see some guys coming up, and I see them going toward the security gate. So I walk out there, and I'm standing there, and they ignore me totally. And they walk right past me, open the security gate, and they walk in this building, which makes me mad. And that's it. This is the inside. And you can't tell, but right here, where the picture starts, is glass also, thick glass, you know, like safety glass, like plastic glass, where the kind when it's thick like this, and they have the holes drilled in it. You know, you're in the city, so nobody can rob you, and they got a little drawer that you spin when you put money in it. And someone sits in here, and you look through those windows, and that's where the animals are, in the back. If you've never been in a little live market like this, you can pick the animal you want. You point to them, and they kill him for you. They cut his throat. Halal. Slaughter. So I'm standing there, and they're ignoring me. And then they're gone. So I wait patiently. It feels like an hour, but it probably was 5 or 10 minutes later. A man comes walking up, and of course I could see better than we can in the picture here when I was there. The man comes walking up to that side of the glass, and he's got a hoodie on, it's pulled tight, it must be cold in there too. And I bang on the glass, and I say, hey, I need to talk to you about that cow. He walks right up to that glass right there where the register is, but on the other side of it, and there must be a table there, because he puts his hand down, I see him put his hand down, and he pulls up a big knife like this. And it's a weird shaped knife like this, and it's bloody. And he holds it up right to the glass, and he just looks at it like he's looking through me. And he goes like this, and he takes a white rag, he wipes the blood off it, and he does it again, and then he sticks it in something in his belt, turns around, and disappears in the back there through these hanging vinyl slats. It must be the refrigerated part in the back, and he's gone. And I could feel the veins hanging out of my neck, because I'm not passive. I get angry, and I don't know what that was meant to do. If it was meant to scare me, if it was meant to say, you're next, or he's already gone, or whatever it was, but whatever it did, I could feel myself getting revved up. And so he's gone, and he's gone for a few minutes, and then he comes back, and I start banging on the glass again. Hey, and he's ignoring me, and he's really ignoring me. I mean, he doesn't flinch. And I'm banging on the glass a little harder. All of a sudden, I see him jump. I must hit the glass a little too hard, and I realize I'm really bowing it in. I didn't realize I was hitting it that hard. I definitely was close to caving it in. And honest to God, I didn't realize I was doing that, but you get fired up, you know? And he looks, and he's nervous, and I go, we need to talk about that, a couple words I don't want to say, cow, right now. And he walks up to the door up there, and He flips the lock, and he pulls the door open. As soon as he does, I stick my foot in the door. All of a sudden, he looks nervous. All of a sudden, I feel calm. I said, hey, we need to talk about that cow. I don't know nothing about no cow, man. I don't know about no cow. I don't know anything. I said, where's your boss? So he opens the door. There's a door right there that goes downstairs, and he opens it, and he yells down the stairs, and this young guy comes running up, and immediately, I didn't even say a word, he just starts lying to me. Hey man, that cow, he's gone, you know? We took that cow, we put him back in the truck, he's going back to where he came from. Somebody's getting that cow for free. It's the people who raised him, not you. Why should you get him? Nobody's getting that cow. I said, when did he go? He said, last night. I said, no, he didn't. What do you mean? He said, I've been parked out there since 7 o'clock last night. Nobody came or went. He didn't leave. You want to stick with that story? He yells for somebody else, and a guy, I don't know, 35, 40 years old, comes over, and that guy was straight with me right away, and he goes, he's still here. We're supposed to kill him at 7 o'clock. I'd like to let you have him, but I can't. Who can? Pulls out his little flip phone, dials a number, says a few words in a language I don't know, and then he hands me the phone, and it's that guy, it's the boss that I spoke to the night before. Within 5 minutes, he says, you can have him. We go in the back, and we get him, and he was outside in this little triangle pen outside, and we got him on a rope, and we lead him in there, and he was happy to go, and there he is in my trailer, and that's Freddie. And there he is laying down in a little stall. Got him home. Isolation. That's me getting to know him. That's how you get to know one of these big kids from a distance. All right, get to know him, and then he let me in a little closer. There he is on TV. There was so much coverage of him on TV, and there he is. And so Freddie is doing really well now, and there he is with Pammy, right, in one of our little fields. That's a bigger field with Rosie, right? Rosie is another rescue. They're all rescues. We have 39 cows right now, and I love cows. And there she is. There he is with Bill and Pammy and a whole bunch of them. We call them the 11 now. They medium 11, right? So we separate them by different sizes. And there he is. That's called the Fleming response. He must have smelled something really good. Curls his lip up like that. He's like Hannibal Lecter. You're in trouble when he does that. Or it could be a date, depending on how well you smell. And there's Freddie, and he's beautiful, and he's going to be giant. He's already, 1.5 times or bigger than that. He's a good boy, and there he is with Iris, hanging out, having a snack with some of the other kids. Spencer. Spencer's another Holstein boy. So I'm driving along one day. I'm driving in upstate New York. For you guys, it's home. For me, it's away from where I am, from New Jersey. And I'm driving and I'm going to get a scale, right? I'm going to buy a scale so I can weigh our big cattle so we can dose them with medicine correctly, right? And so I'm on the phone with my man Dave here. And we're yapping away like we always are. And I'm getting close to the place, which I know is near Cornell University. I go to Cornell all the time. They're unbelievable to us. They take care of animals for us. It's the only time I feel safe with one of our sick animals is when we drop them off at Cornell, right? So I'm driving along, and Dave is like, what are you talking about? I was like, what? He says, what are you counting? Oh, I'm sorry. I was counting calf hutches. Now, we've seen these. I mean, everyone's seen these. You drive by farms and you see these, and I've driven by them a million times. I always think that's sad, but I never had this feeling, and today I have this feeling. Just had this feeling. I'm like, Dave, there's got to be 35 or 40 of these things. I got to go, Dave. He goes, what are you going to do? I have no idea. And I never do. So I drive up the road another half mile or so to the place where I'm going to get the scales. That's where it was. And I'm talking to the guy, and I go, I can't stop thinking about this. In fact, I didn't end up getting the scale that day because I can't stop thinking about this place. I go, you know that farm down the road? He goes, yeah. Do you know the people? Yeah. They nice people? They're pretty nice people, yeah. Think they want to give me an animal? I don't know if they're that nice, he says. Why, you going to try and get them to give you one? I am. I'd like to see that. Can I go? Sure, you can go. So we hop in the truck and we drive down there, and there's this young guy running a skid steer machine. It's like 35 degrees out and it's raining. And there's all these calf hutches. So I start talking to the guy in the machine. I tell him who I am. I say, got any animals you don't want today? He actually starts laughing at me. What? I said, you got any animals you don't want today? You got any spent dairy cows, any calves, any veal calves? Anybody? Anybody you don't want today? No, not today. Well, I mean, there's the one, he goes. There's the one. But you don't want him. Why not? He's half dead already. How old is he? About an hour. Can I see him? Sure. So we walk over. We walk over to the hutches, and he was in the third one right there. He wasn't in it, he was in front of it. There was a little cage around it like that poor girl right there is in, and he's laying there, and it's 35 degrees out. Well, I didn't know he was laying there. We walk up, and the guy, I'm looking, and I can see by the size of them that they're all girls. Because if they're boys, they're gone in a week usually on these dairy farms. So they're bigger. They're all bigger than a week old, and there were several. There's more in the back there, and I'm like, there's no boys here. I don't see any. And the guy walks up to that third one right there, and he's facing me, and we're no farther apart than from me to this pole, and he leans on the little calf hutch like this, and he's staring at me. I'm like, yes? He looks down, and there is, remember I rescue cows. I'm good at spotting them, of course I am. There's what looks to me to be a wheelbarrow full of cow manure dumped on the ground in a pile. I'm looking. All of a sudden I realize it's shivering. I take a couple steps forward and I look, and I can see just a little bit of a pink under his one eye, and my heart starts to pound. And you have to keep that in check because you don't want someone to think you're judging them, because it can go wrong immediately. So I just go, I can have him? Yeah, I mean, you could see he's half dead. It's either that or I could have put a 22 in his head. Yeah, I'll take him. Trying to be nonchalant. Let me get my truck. So I go up, and my truck is over parked, and at the time I have this big dual-wheel truck, and I'm pulling a 30-foot long stock trailer on the back because there were 6 animals that had escaped in St. Louis, bulls and cows that were running through the streets, and I was negotiating, trying to get those animals to rescue. So everywhere I went, I had this big trailer on the back, right, for no reason. I go to get a coffee, I have a 30-foot trailer on the back and clothes in the back and everything, because if they call me, I can't waste 5 minutes, because those 5 minutes can make a difference. Trust me. So wherever I am, I have this big trailer. So I pull up to get this 78-pound calf with this huge truck and trailer, and I jump out with a blanket, and I run over, and the farmer must have felt self-conscious because he's on the ground now, on his knees, with handfuls of straw, and he's raking the manure off the animal. And now he looks like a calf, a really dirty calf. So I throw a blanket down, and we roll him onto the blanket. We pick him up, got this big cow burrito, and I start walking to my truck, and I'm going to put him in the back seat of the truck. And he goes, "You're not going to put him in that truck, are you?" "Of course I'm going to put him in that truck. He's hypothermic." He goes, "They wouldn't even let me ride in a truck like that." Yeah, he thinks the truck is nice. I'm like, you can ride in the trailer if you want, but he needs to go in the front. So I throw him in the back, and we get him in there, and I jump in the truck, and he's moving a little bit, but it's kind of weak, and I now call Cornell on the phone. Right? And I don't know how to get there from here, so I punch it in the GPS, and it says 31 minutes to get there. I'm like, thank God we're close. I knew we were close, but I didn't know how close. And the thing's taking me through all these winding back roads, and swear, some of them are like this, and they're dirt roads, and it's raining. I'm doing like 70 with the truck and 4-wheel drive, and the thing's sliding all over the place. And I'm a nervous wreck because of this kid in the back, and I'm on the phone with Cornell, and they know me really well from dealing with me for years, and they already think I'm mental. So I'm on there, and I'm like, I'm cutting with this calf, and he's not doing really well, and he's definitely hypothermic, and he's lethargic, and he's not doing, don't make me wait, don't make me sit there waiting, he's not doing good, every minute, just don't, please don't. And they're laughing. 3 calls like that, we made it there in 19 minutes. I get there, I come flying around the corner, and there are 10 doctors outside, 10 doctors with this big gurney, and we throw him on the gurney, and that's where he came from, and there he is in the back seat of my truck. Look at that little kid. Look how small he is. There he is at Cornell. Look how dirty he is. He's got oxygen on him. And they start working on him. He wasn't doing well. He was dirty like this. Why? Because his mom was a dairy cow. So she was in the milking parlor. She was in a head gate being used for milk. And she gave birth to him right into the manure gutter where all the manure goes. So instead of doing anything for him, they just grabbed him by the leg and dragged him through the gutter out into the 35-degree rain and just left him there to die. So when I got him there, even though he got the best, look at him getting scrubbed up. Aw. Even though he got the best care he could get within being 2 hours old, within 1 minute of being there, they had an IV catheter in his jugular and they were giving him ampicillin and other drugs to try and help him. We were trying to warm his body. He was 95 degrees. He's supposed to be 102. They said another half an hour, he would have died from exposure out there. He still got an infection because of the way he was born. He got an infection through his umbilical cord because he didn't get any colostrum. Colostrum comes from his mother's milk, and it's where about 90% of the immune system for a young ruminant like him comes from. So he didn't get any, and then he was born into such filthy conditions that he had to have his whole umbilical stump, his umbilicus resected to stop the infection from traveling through him, which we have experienced with Jimmy, our boy Jimmy, who, as the Cornell likes to refer to, is the most expensive $50 veal calf in the world. So there's Spence at Cornell, getting a little better, and getting a little better. He's beautiful, and he's so strong already, and look at that face. And that is Spencer, and he is fantastic. And I am willing to wager right now that he is easily going to be 6 foot at the shoulder and 2,500 pounds. He is a moose. He's a moose. He's beautiful. And that's Spencer. And this is Joe. So I was talking to a friend of mine who is a development person at another sanctuary, a farm sanctuary in Watkins Glen. And we're talking, and she goes, how do you rescue these animals? How do you make this happen without exchanging money for animals? How do you do this? I said, I have no idea. I just do. It's just the way it works, and I don't buy animals. She says, why don't you show me one day? So she wasn't doing anything, and I wasn't doing anything. I said, let's take a ride in the stockyard and see what happens. So we did. So we take a ride in this big stockyard on calf day. If you haven't guessed by now, calves and cows are my favorite animals. So we go up there, and there are 93 calves that day, 93. And so immediately I start trying to lay the groundwork. I find the boss and I start talking to him, and talking about the idea of, if anybody doesn't get up for sale today, maybe you want to let me take them off your hands. He ignored me. He wanted nothing to do with it. Then I watched him, and he was getting his butt handed to him a little bit by some bigger steer here and there. So I went and held the gate, moved a couple gates, did a couple things, and ingratiated myself with him, right? And so he started listening to me a little better. At which point I made up a lie and told him that I had a niece in veterinary school, and she'd be happy to take any really sick animals and try and nurse them back. Because if I would have said it was my daughter, I would have had to know a lot of stuff about her. But if it's my niece, I'm like, yeah, it's my brother's kid. Seems like a nice kid. So he said, well, we'll see. If anybody doesn't get up for sale, maybe you can have one. So there was a couple calves laying down, getting stomped on a little by the others, but then they would get up here and there. And there was one kid who didn't seem to be getting up. And that's him right there. And that's Joe. So all the other calves went in, and he had been stomped on, and they had tried to pick him up about 20 times, and they'd zapped him with the electric cattle prod at least a dozen times in front of me, which is really hard for me to watch. And I'm leaning on the fence, and I'll tell you something, it goes against your nature, especially if you're a rescuer of animals. It goes against your nature to see someone small and weak like that and sick, and say to yourself, God, I hope he doesn't get up. Because all you want to do is see him get up and run around. But here I am hoping he doesn't, because if he does, there's nothing I can do for him. So I'm leaning on the fence. hoping he doesn't get up. And one of the stockyard workers is 2 people down from me, leaning on the fence, talking to his friend, being a big shot. And he says, that little bastard, he don't know, but if he don't get up, he's going to get the hammer. Meaning they're going to hit him in the head with a hammer and throw him in the pile with the dead ones. All I can think is, not with me here, he isn't. So the other animals go, and the boss who I'd been speaking to comes in, and he says to this one other guy there who wanted me to get an animal. He definitely wanted me to get one out. This other guy was funny. And he says, what's the matter with him? What's the matter? He goes, I slid him up 10 times. He can't walk. He stands him up. The boss grabs him then by the rear end, by the scruff of his neck, and he stands him up. And as soon as he stands him up, he starts to crumble. And then he just jockeys him around like a marionette, and then he gets his legs just right, and he stands. And my heart sinks. And then they prod him, and he walks maybe 8 feet through the door to the sale floor. Thank God he walked about 2 steps, and he fell right over on the sale floor. And they dragged him right back out by his legs. I said, can I have him? Yeah, when everyone else leaves. So I wait. They sell all the pigs. They sell all the calves. The whole time you're nervous that he's going to get up. Please don't get up. He doesn't get up. And it's time. I walk in there. He weighs 102 pounds. He's about 2 days old. He's a big boy. 102 pounds. But 102 pounds is nothing to me. It's 2 bags of feed. I carry them all day long. I walk in. I pick him up. I had to walk maybe 75 feet from the little pen they had him to a loading dock, and then get off the loading dock and walk a few hundred feet to my truck. So I carry him from the pen to the loading dock. I almost couldn't do it. My heart was pounding so bad because I just keep thinking they're going to say, never mind, you can't have him. And I had no strength. I was so worked up, and I'm carrying him. And the second I laid him down on the loading dock, I guess I felt safe. I jumped off and I grabbed him, and that last couple hundred feet to the truck was like nothing. I'm like running like a mental patient, you know. And we throw him in the trailer, and he was in bad shape. And again, another frantic call to Cornell, and there he is at Cornell, right, getting worked on. And he had much the same stuff as Joe, the same kind of infection, the same kind of thing. He had to have the same kind of treatment. He wasn't as dirty though, and that's him, and that's little Joe. And there he is driving with us. That's me driving with his head on me. Dave took that picture. We're cruising. There he is getting a bottle. He's beautiful. There he is hanging out in a... Get up, Dylan. It's on hanging out. He's beautiful. There he is with Phil, another calf we rescued. And so Joe is doing really well now. So that was a rescue from a stockyard, right? So people always are like, how do you get animals from a stockyard? You ask. That's how you do it. Babe. Babe is our most recent kind of big deal rescue. So you heard there was a hurricane down in Texas a few weeks ago, right? And so, you know, when they start talking about the hurricane, all of a sudden I feel this feeling welling up in me, like I should go. I don't know why. I never run toward hurricanes, but I just had this feeling, maybe I should go. I push it off, and the hurricane hits. Then I can't push it off anymore. So I grab the truck and the trailer, and I start heading down because I'm handy. Maybe it's my ego who drives me. I don't know what it is, but I'm handy. I can run equipment, I can drive anything, I can fix anything. I just feel like I can be handy. I just feel drawn. So I go. I drive down to Texas, 1,670 miles, and I get down there, and I am largely ineffective, right? I'm heading towards Houston, because that's where everybody said stuff was going on. But in my mind, I'm thinking, Houston, the heck is there are no farm animals in Houston. So I'm about 10 or 20 miles out of Houston. I get a call from these people talking to me that had heard there was stuff going on in Beaumont, Texas, and that the whole town was wasted. It was underground, and there are farm animals. So I head to Beaumont. In the morning, I head there, and It is like a ghost town getting there. I'm going through these back roads, right? I got directions from people I'm hearing truck drivers on the CB, and they know the ways, but it's not the normal ways. It's the only roads that are above ground, above water. So I'm going through all these fields, and there's military vehicle after military vehicle. It looks like something out of a movie, There's no cars, no trucks, no one, just military vehicles. And me. So I drive, and I get there, and I find this place. It's called Ford Park, and it is these two huge pavilions, huge, that they have like state fair under it, stuff like that, and it is incredible. Already they have this like triage set up for horses and for dogs and cats. It was really cool, and I'll tell you, if you start to lose faith in humanity, I was there was no big organizations there, it was all volunteers, all people, and you just watch trucks and trailers of people from their own pocket buying water, fresh water, and feed for these animals and stuff, and just non-stop. It was unbelievable how much stuff that was coming in and how hard these people were trying. I remember there was a woman there who had been the first person on the ground there wanting to help cats and dogs, and the sheriff said, "Do you have shelter experience?" She goes, "Well, yeah, a little bit." And he goes, "You're in charge." This woman worked so hard, until a big organization came in and told her, "You can clean crates if you want." But still, in the beginning, it was beautiful to see these people trying. So I get there, and there were a few farm animals. There's some pigs, there's some goats, and nobody knew what to do with them, and no one honestly cared. And it was odd, so I'm trying to find out how I'm going to help. How am I going to help? Not taking into consideration initially the idea that we're here, we're in Texas. All of these animals are objectified, right? They're all possessions. That's what they are. Nobody sees them like I see them. Cats and dogs are different. The cats and dogs people, they think I'm crazy. They're like, "Dude, we feed your animals to these animals." So I'm alone. I felt alone. So I was able to help by moving horses, right? I'm not a horse guy, but my trailer is handy in my truck, so we move horses to high ground, right? And the horses are going to be safe. I don't mind helping the horses because I know the horses are safe. I'm in this high-level meeting with all these animal people, and everyone's talking about all these wonderful things they're thinking they're going to do, and they're looking at me and they're like, "Mike, what's the matter?" I don't do this. That's what's the matter. I don't know what's going on here, but I don't do this. I don't delay the death of animals by a week. That's not what I do. I rescue animals. And they're like, "We're not going to euthanize any of these animals." And I said, "Well, what do you think is going to happen to those pigs right there? What do you think is going to happen to the cows? What's going to happen?" Most of them didn't get it. But one guy in the front seat was like, "Oh, I see what you're saying." I said, "I'm not used to working in a group like this. You guys, no offense, you seem like nice people, but I gotta go. I gotta try and rescue animals, man." And so a couple of them wanted to help. And so we just let out, and we started taking calls on this Zello app that turns your phone into like a two-way radio. They made a big channel, and anywhere there was a rescue in need, they would say what it was. "There's dogs over this house, this address, this, that," and people would try, they would wade out in the water, or you'd go to boat, and you'd get out there, and you'd get these animals, and I'm waiting for farm animal calls, and I get one. There's this guy who's bringing in two lame horses that can't get up, and we're going to meet him at this gas station, and all this, and the closest person to be there, they said would be an hour and a half away, and I'm like, I could be there in 10 minutes. So we drive over there. The guy never showed up. He never got the horses in the trailer, and two women went directly where they were, and they got those animals. They helped. So I'm sitting in a gas station, and all of a sudden somebody bangs on the window, and it's like, "Hey, what do you got in that trailer?" "Nobody right now." "I'm missing a horse," he says. "I'm missing a paint horse." I said, "Well, all the animals, as far as I know from this county, are going to the Ford Pavilion. You would check there." "You know anything about cows?" "Me? Why?" "I'm missing 80 cows. 80. He's a rancher. I'm torn already. I figure minimally I'll go there and I will mark the location and I will map the route so I know how to get there dry roads, and if it's something that I feel I shouldn't be doing, I will tell other people how to get there and where it is." So I go, and a couple of dog and cat people go with me, and they're nice, and we go there, and we back down the street. I back down the street, and you can see there's boats, and the road just goes down, and now we're in the water, and I back up in, and the farmer's talking to me, and he's saying how they're off in the weeds, in the trees in the back, and they had 2 helicopters trying to herd them earlier that day, but it didn't work. And I said, well, you ever feed your animals from that truck? He said, yeah, all the time. They know your truck? Yeah. I said, why don't you just drive out in the water, as deep as you can go, and do whatever you do to call the animals. You know, if it was me, I'd just be like, hey, and they come. But he starts out and he goes, good idea. And he drives out there and starts beating the horn. He's got a half a ton of feed in the back of the truck. So he starts yelling, he starts calling. Meanwhile, there's a boat there that's broken. I help the guy get the boat going. One of the dog and cat guys helps me. We get that boat going. And the dog and cat guys and everybody jumps on the boat and they go trolling for animals. Mostly, I think, for video. I hate to say it, but true. So I stay there with the guy. And he goes and he wades out into the water. And you can hear the cows from him beating the horn and yelling. You can hear them mooing. There's a couple cows out there. And meanwhile, there's cows floating, dead cows. His Black Angus cows. He wades out there and he's got food with him. Sure enough, he comes back and there's this bull following him in the water. Comes back and I throw him a halter and he puts the halter around the bull. He comes closer, comes around the side, and now we get up and my trailer's right on the edge of the water. I'm in the water, I pull up, so I'm just out of it. And we get the bull, and he's a 2-year-old bull. He's about this big. He looks very thin. He looks very tired. And we lead him to the back of the trailer, and he puts his legs to the trailer, and he just lays down. He has nothing left. Then he just falls over on his side, and his eyes roll back, and oh my God, I think he's gonna die right then. When a ruminant lays flat on their side like that, especially from exhaustion or something, it's bad news. You know, a ruminant can't lay on their side. They get bloat. They have to be sternal up on their chest. So immediately I jump out. I'm trying to wrestle him up, and I get him up on his side. And the farmer says, "I'm going to go get the hot shot." The hot shot is an electric cattle prod. And there's someone there. That's where it was. That's the truck. He was back in the woods back there. And there's some more. That's some others that we got. I'll tell you about them in a second. So he says, "I'm going to get the hot shot." I said, "No, you're not." And he says, "Okay, what am I going to do?" I said, "Aren't you going to try and get some more?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "Then I'll stay with him. You leave him with me." So I'm sitting there and I'm talking to him, and this young guy comes over, from a city guy from Long Island, was actually there helping with the cats and dogs. He comes over and he's watching me, and I'm petting this bull, and he's got his head on my lap, and I'm petting him and I'm talking to him, and he goes, "Man, I didn't know they were that way." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Look at him, he's so nice." He doesn't feel well. He might not be so nice, but he's definitely got emotion. He definitely, I mean, you see it. He goes, "I never saw one act like that. I never saw that they had something in there." It was pretty cool, right? So the farmer's gone for a while, and then he comes back, and we get the bull up. He gets up, and he takes the reins. He takes the halter, and he walks him. Now I have a ramp on the side of my trailer, and the side of the trailer is towards the edge of the road, and he doesn't realize it. He swings the bull too far. He steps off into a drainage ditch, and it's about this deep. He just drops in, and he gives up immediately. As soon as he feels the water on him, he's had enough. He can't go on. He's got nothing in him. He just falls down the water. He goes right under. His head goes under, and his eyes roll back like this, and he bobs up and down a couple times, and he just starts listing over on his side like this. And the farmer gives him a big pull, and he hits the ground, and he can't do anything, and he just gives up, and he sits on the ground, and he's almost crying, the guy, because he's just exhausted. He can't go, and he says, "I can't do it. I can't. I don't have anything left." So I grab the halter, and I'm pulling as hard as I can, and I can get his head. I'm holding his head up. I got his head on land, and the young guy is over there that was just sitting with me, and I'm like, "Get over here, get over here." So he comes over, I give him the rope, and he pulls, and I grab the bull by the front legs, and I'm pulling, and then I start yelling at the farmer, "Pull!" So we get it 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 times, and we get him about 3/4 of the way up on the land. And his eyes are still rolled back, and I wrestle him up on his chest again, sternal. And so I figure I'm going to go get some more feed. He seemed to like the feed. Maybe I can get him out of the water with the feed, right? So I go to get it. The farmer pulls the hot shot out, and zaps him. As soon as he zaps him with it, he jumps up like a maniac, runs into my truck and dents it. I figured we might as well take advantage of this, and we get him in the trailer. He gets up in the trailer, no sooner he gets in it, he lays down. He's done. Falls over on his side again. We get him back up, and I stay with him. And the farmer goes back out with his truck and with the feed. Within 15 minutes, he comes back with 11 more. 11 more. And they were in a little better shape than him. And so, this is them. So now we're going to herd them down the street to a higher ground, to another pasture, his friend's pasture. And the whole time, I'm torn now. Because why am I helping this guy? I don't want to help this guy. But I honestly, in my head, I can remember thinking, they're probably better off if I just let them drown. But faced with standing there and watching them drown is a different thing. It's a different thing. So the cat and dog people are on the side, wrangling them a little, and I'm keeping them in with my trailer, and we herd them down the road, and we get them down to another place, and we get them in the stall, and so in a field. And so the bull's still in the back, and I said to the farmer, you know, he needs a doctor, he needs a vet. And he goes, oh yeah, I know. He says, let's just open the door, we'll see if he gets up. And we opened the door, and he was not getting up. He said, maybe we'll take him back to the Ford Pavilion. There's vets there. I said, yeah, good idea. So it's 9 o'clock at night now. Been at this all day. So we drive him back to the Ford Pavilion, and the vets were all gone. So he goes out looking for a vet, and I climb in the back, and I'm sitting back there with the bull, and I gotta be honest with you, I'm exhausted. I had driven 1,700 miles 2 days before. I've probably only slept an hour and a half or so in the truck, and I am mentally, emotionally drained. And this bull is laying here, and there's nothing I can do for him. Nothing. And I'm sitting on the floor with him on my trailer, and he's got his head on my lap, and I'm talking to him, and I'm apologizing to him. I'm saying, I'm sorry, I don't know what to do. I'm sorry, I suck. Because that's what it feels like, right? I don't know what to do for him. I'm upset. All of a sudden I hear another guy from New Jersey. How do you know? He was loud and annoying. And he's going, who's got the New Jersey license plate? Who is it? He comes around, it's him and his wife, and they used to live in New Jersey. Now they've been in Texas for 8 years or something. And we start talking, and he says, well, Doc Schneider is down the road, you know. He just left here like 15 minutes ago. Maybe you can get him. So I call the farmer over, and I say, you know, tell him. He goes, Doc Snyder's the best. He goes, that's what I was trying to find. So we call him, and he's like 15 minutes away to his place. He says he'll be there in 45 minutes. So now it's almost 9:30. The farmer says, will you bring him for me? Of course I'll bring him for you. What am I going to do? The guy from New Jersey goes, you owe him, man. The farmer goes, I know I do. He goes, you think I don't know? Of course I know. He goes, guys, help me so much. He lost 68 cattle in the flood, 68. So, you know, dollars and cents, $100,000 he lost that day. Now, a couple times I had approached the idea of him giving me that animal. And I'll tell you straight out, and you'd have to try and approach it, you know, when I had him on the ground, when I got him in the trailer, maybe 3 times I'd approach it, and you have to be gentle. Listen, you know, I have a couple hundred acres. Maybe you want to let him live. And I'm going to tell you something straight out. This man was not a bad man. He was not stupid. He was a hard-working guy. He was a regular guy. And when I said those words to him, maybe you could let him live, 3 different times, he looked at me, I swear on my life, as if it were, I know the words you're saying individually, but when you string them all together like that, they don't mean anything. You know, as if I had said to him, you know what makes a great pool float? A hunk of concrete. That's exactly how he looked at me, like that. Like, what the heck are you talking about? So he's in the back of the truck and in the trailer, and we're about to go to the vet, and he's talking about owing me, and he goes, I got a few $100s in my pocket. Whatever I got is yours. And I said, and I go, are you talking to me? I thought he was talking to the other guy. Are you talking to me? He goes, yeah. I go, I'm not taking any money. I came here to help animals. That's why I came. He goes, dude, you drove all the way from New Jersey in that big rig. I can't imagine how much it costs just in fuel. Just take the money. I said, I'm not taking any money. Then I thought, how much is a bull like this worth? dollars and cents. Between you and I. And he goes, oh, I mean, he's skinny right now. He's dehydrated, but 1,500 or better, easy. But you can have him. And again, same thing as with Julie. I'm standing there like a dope, waiting for him to say the rest. It's worth 1,500, but you can have him for 1,000, or you can have him for 500, or which would immediately be an ethical dilemma for me because I don't pay money, but I want this animal to live. But he doesn't say anything else, and I'm like, I can have him. And he says to me something that almost broke me down right then. He goes, man, I saw how much you love him. You can have him. And I couldn't believe it. I swear, it was like a miracle. And I'm standing there like dumbfounded. Like, I really am. I hugged the guy. I was dumbfounded. I was like, where did that come from, you know? So I took him to the vet, and we got there at 10:30, and there he is in the squeeze chute getting checked out. And there he is in the tub getting looked over. There he is on the trailer back home. And he was doing okay. He was dehydrated. He needed to stay for a few days while I was trying to rescue other animals to get what's called a CVI, so I could legally transport him back to New Jersey from Texas. A health check. And there he is, and there he is again. And there he is. He's skinny, you can see. You see his legs. He's got something called rain rot. So he's at Cornell right now. From standing in the rain all that time, his legs began to, the skin started to split. And so he'll be fine, but he's at Cornell now, right? So, okay. So that's Babe. The guy gave him to me, a rancher. The guy who lost $100,000 that day gave me that animal. And he didn't have to. There was no reason to. I didn't ask him at that time to give him to me. We were just talking. He just decided to let that animal go. Why? Because in his own words, I could saw you love him, right? Fletcher. This is Fletcher. Fletcher at that time was a 4-month-old golden retriever, right? So he's a rescue. I rescued him from a pet shop, right? For $1,000. Right? Is that a rescue? No, that's not a rescue, right? Of course I didn't pay $1,000 for Fletcher. Of course I didn't. Of course he's a rescue, right? Of course he is. He's beautiful, right? He's a total goofball. This is here to illustrate something, right? That's Jimmy. He's my boss. This is here to illustrate something. Fletcher is here to illustrate the idea that we don't buy animals, right? And so this is a trend now. This is a trend in rescuing, right? People want to buy animals. It's a dangerous territory, right? Buying animals. I don't know why it is that we know we don't buy cats and dogs, right? We don't want to buy cats and dogs from puppy mills or breeders too. The idea is we're supporting them, right? If we're animal rights activists, we don't want to support the industry that is doing things that we wish they weren't doing, right? That's the idea, okay? So I'm not here to vilify anybody who's done anything. The point is, why do we get it with these animals, but we don't get it with farm animals, right? Why are we going to go to, you're not going to go somewhere and pay $1,000 for a pit bull when you can go to any shelter there is and get 50 of them, right? Why are you going to do that for a bull? Or a goat, or a sheep, or a pig, right? People are buying, sanctuaries are buying animals. I want to tell you something. I want to explain something to you. So, if you're a good-hearted person, you have good intentions, you see stories like my stories. Look at this dope. He talks people out of animals. I'm going to do that. You go to a slaughterhouse, you go to a live market, you go to one of these places with the intention of talking them into giving you an animal. All good intentions. And you try your best. And while you're standing there, there's an animal that you lock eyes with. And in the end, you're unable to get them to give you that animal. The guy says to you, for $100, you could save that animal's life. You'd save that goat for $100. You have the $100, you buy that animal. I'm not mad at you for it. I don't think it's horrible. I don't think you're a bad person. But I do think you just learned a lesson. You're not the person who does that. Don't go back to those places. Don't give money to those people again. That's who you are. Find a different niche. That's your niche, right? But instead, people are now buying animals left and right. It's a thing. We buy animals left and right so they can call them rescues. Why? It's the strangest thing. Recently I was called, what kind of person? A psychopath leaves animals behind, because I go to the stockyard and I get them, I talk them into giving me little Joe, and I leave, but I leave other ones behind. And if I couldn't get any that day, I'm telling you straight out, I didn't have enough money on me to buy an animal on purpose, because I have a soft heart. I leave my wallet. I can't buy an animal, just in case I'm tempted. Somebody called me a psychopath because I could look them in the eye and leave them behind. Let me give you a hint. Unless you go there and buy every single animal that's there, you're leaving them behind. And not only are you leaving them behind, but you're commodifying them immediately. There's a price on that animal's head that you think that animal is worth buying for, right? And not only that, why are you buying that one animal? Because he's cute? Because he's hurt? Because he's this? Because he's that? You're choosing one above the others. You know which ones I take? Whichever one they'll give me. I don't choose and then leave the others behind. There's a difference there. When you choose one, you're commodifying that animal. Look how cute he is. It's not what we do, right? We don't want to do that. And so you hear these stories, when these stories are what they are. If you came to my sanctuary, you'd spend hours listening to me blab on as we walked around and met animals. 2.5, 3 hours. We meet all these animals, and the whole conversation, the whole time, is based on the concept of not commodifying animals, because that is how we are going to stop this, right? No matter what I say, no matter how good a rescuer I am, and I'm a pretty good one, I am not going to, and you're not going to, rescue us out of this situation. We simply cannot rescue all these animals, right? We can't. So how do we change this? By teaching people, by showing people what their money is paying for, right? By changing minds and perceptions about the way the animals are, by stopping commodifying animals. So if at the end of the story we do all this, and I tell you about Jimmy right here, who's, like I said, my boss, my best friend in the world, and I tell you, yeah, Jimmy, all these animals, Jimmy is an individual. He's someone, he's not something. He's not a piece of furniture to be bought and sold. He's someone to be loved and respected and to live his life for his own purposes, right? By the way, I paid $1,000 for him. How does it fit? How does it end? It doesn't. You can't do that. So we have that sometimes. I'm going to tell you straight out. So Freddie, you saw Freddie, he was running through the streets in Queens. He was running through the streets, and there were so many people in the city, and no one has land in the city, and no one has trailers, and they don't have what I have to do what I do. But what do they have? They have big hearts, and they have a credit card. So when I was trying to rescue him, well-intended people are bidding him up. He was to the slaughterhouse. I think they told me he was worth between $1,500 and $1,700 to them. To me, he was priceless. But to other activists, he was worth up to $4,500. They had bid him up to $4,500. So they're going to give 3 times his worth to these people who can then take that 3 times as much money and buy 3 more animals instead of just the one, right? You know how hard it is to try and get an animal for free when someone has bid him up to 3 times what he's worth? Thank God I'm a good liar. And that's how we got him. So the point of the story is to show you, and we have, right now I have 140 animals at our farm, and there are sanctuaries all the way up and down the East Coast, and as far as Texas, that have animals that I've rescued, and none of them have been paid for, right? So I'm here to tell you, we can get animals, right? If you have land, if you know someone who wants to rescue animals and is a good foster, contact a good sanctuary. They have animals. They have networks. They need adopters. Don't go buy animals, please. Call me, and I'll get you one. I'll get you 100. You buy 100 acres, I'll fill it up for you. I promise. I think that's it. Unless you have any questions, anything you'd like to say, I'll make up some stories or answers for you. Nothing. No one wants to ask anything? That was easy. Thank you guys. Thanks, Mary.
It was awesome.